Okay.
Wow.
What, was that good or bad?
It's great that we're back.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
We're back, baby.
We're back, and this is, what? How do we do this again?
I don't know. We haven't touched this feed since last November of 2021.
Yeah.
And,
things are different.
Things are much different. The world has changed. We've changed. I'm a year older. I think you are probably...
I'm 4 years older.
How did you do that?
Good question.
All right. Well, we're back, and we thank you for listening and subscribing still. If this is showing up in your podcatcher app, you're probably like, oh, shit, it's these people again. We're alive. How are you doing?
And if this went off without a hitch, you didn't know that this was going to happen. And I don't think anybody, including our podcast network, knew that we were doing this.
Nobody knows.
So, yeah.
Nobody knows, but now you know now because you're listening to Picking Up Something Good, a limited event prestige podcast about... Hang on a second. Mace, my notes say that this podcast is about Radiohead, but... I don't think that's true anymore, because we ran out of Radiohead.
Yeah, I make a habit of not talking about British people anymore.
Yeah, we just a complete blanket moratorium on the British here in our studio. So, what the fuck are we even talking about? What are we picking up that's so good?
Okay, so it's dreary out there. It is so cold, and it is so rainy, and it is so bad. Just go along with it if it's sunny. Like in some places in the country, it is snowing, multiple feet of snow, and it's so sad and dreary. And the world's most divorced man owns the biggest social network in the world,
and it's ruining my chances to get jobs because that's how it works. Because you have to tweet now in order to be a musician now.
Yeah, 2022 sucks.
Ugh.
2022 has sucked the whole time.
It sucked. I basically, from July to now, I've kind of just been a sad sack at my house, just kind of sitting there.
Same here.
Like,
I don't do anything. I play video games all the time.
The other day, I tried to do something, and I slipped and fell because it's raining, and I don't know, it was just very slippery, and a guy in a lifted truck laughed at me, just saw me fall down and laughed at me.
And that is what we are trying to avoid. Come with us. We are opening the door. We are helping you. Get in the time machine. Get in here. We're in front of the Circle K. We're going back to the halcyon days of the early 70s.
That's right, baby. Because I'm a fucking sad sack, I've been on a Steely Dan kick. This is a limited event, prestige, December-only podcast, probably bleeding into January, about the Dan.
Steely fucking Dan. Welcome to Steely Danceember.
Steely Danceember, baby!
This idea came up 2 days ago.
I read something that, while I was listening to Asia, as I have been frequently lately, I was like, who even is Steely Dan? Who is that guy? What's he all about? What the fuck is he hiding? So I decided to look it up. I went on Wikipedia. And I googled Steely Dan on Wikipedia. And Wikipedia was like, here you go. Here's all the info. And I was like, it's a bunch of guys? What?
Turns out Steely Dan is 2 guys? Maybe more?
Maybe more. And I went down a rabbit hole of just learning about these guys. And I learned some information that... there's a specific nugget that kind of sparked the idea specifically that we'll get to later. But I just went down this rabbit hole of like, I mean, I have to talk about this to someone. It is 1 a.m. I gotta see if Mace is awake. And then it led to this. So welcome
to Steely Danceember.
Steely Danceember, we are talking about the band, the myth, the legend, the Dan.
The Dan, Steely Dan. I gotta say, just at the very top of this adventure, at the very top of this podcast, Steely Dan fucks. I have never been like a huge Steely Dan fan. I have listened to Asia, of course.
Everyone has.
Yeah, of course. I think it's like, as a, like, I think I was forced to listen to Asia at some point because my dad had like a really big my stepdad had a really big like jazz rock phase, and he made us
Everyone's
go to
dad has a big jazz rock phase. You're not special, Mace.
he made us go to a Michael McDonald concert at a racetrack once.
I'm at a racetrack somewhere long ago.
And the only thing I remembered
Watching
about Michael...
all the horses.
Doing illegal betting. The only thing I remember about Michael McDonald is that...
I have a gambling problem. Sorry.
The only thing I remember about Michael McDonald is that he looked kind of like George Lucas at the time.
He does kind of look like George Lucas sometimes. Yeah, he's got similar vibes.
So this is like the only that's the closest I've ever been to seeing the Dan live or enjoying the Dan until recently when I started listening to Asia, and I was like, oh, this is great. So now I'm actually, I think, what's your level of comfort with the Dan?
Well,
I feel like we're wading into this together.
Yeah, I know. It's a special Danceember limited edition series. So it's not like Radiohead where you know all about Radiohead and I know nothing. I think we're kind of at the same level of knowing about the Dan.
Yeah.
Now, when you say recently you've got into Asia, how recently is that?
I'd say maybe 2010, 2011.
Okay, so way... well, I was going to say fucking this year that I got into it. So you have a little bit more of a leg up on me, but you haven't heard, from 2010 to now, you haven't heard, everything. It's not been...
No, I haven't heard everything, and honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest, I used to confuse him with Jethro Tull a lot. I thought Thick as a Brick was a Steely Dan album.
Wow. Okay. That's wild. Yeah.
When you told me this, I got really excited, because I thought we were gonna do Thick as a Brick.
I thought we were gonna talk about Jethro Tull. Well, I'm glad you're still excited, because Steely Dan fucks. I don't know if you've noticed, but, they're having, a moment online. I don't want to call them a meme, because that sounds weird to call a band a meme. I mean... Yeah. Bands can be part of memes, but Steely, it's like having its own little Columbo moment where it just seems like everyone on the internet just suddenly gets into one thing.
I actually was going to mention Columbo. I feel it's very the meme here is very similar to the Columbo meme.
Yeah, and so I'm proud to say I got into Columbo before it was cool on the internet.
Honestly,
I was getting into sentence to say.
I was getting into Columbo when it was on, daytime TV when I
was watching that shit with my grandma.
Yeah, I was an OG Columbo Nation fan.
Columbo Nation.
And I feel like it's kind of like an eternal September for me here, where everybody keeps joining the Columbo Nation.
That must be how it's going to be for longtime Steely Dan fans, the Steely fans, to listen to this show, because I got into them because it just seems like everyone was making tweets about Steely Dan all of a sudden the past couple of years. I don't know, maybe COVID unearthed them for millennials of a certain age, and they sort of trickled down to me. I don't know how it happened, but there's, I follow one person in particular who's just always posting about Steely Dan. And then I finally was just like, fine, I'll listen to Gaucho. God damn it.
So roughly about a couple minutes in here, I do want to go ahead and end the podcast early.
Oh, why? Oh, no.
I would like to end the podcast by saying that COVID did unearth them. Much like Thanos' snap aged everybody about 5 years, and the blip brought them all back, COVID kind of aged us all a little bit more, and now we're all, yacht rock dads.
Oh, I see.
It's exactly
I was afraid you were going full Marvel on it. You were just making the comparison.
No, it's exactly like what happened in the 5 years between Thanos' snap and the blip.
I don't know what those words mean, Mace, but I see your point. I really do
I think
feel
that Martin Scorsese should apologize.
Shut the fuck up. He might hear this. He looks like he might be into Steely Dan. I'm just hoping that. That's just wishful thinking. I don't actually know that about him. But yeah, no, I feel like I'm definitely next year. Not even next year. Next month. Wow, I forgot it's December already, even though we've been talking about it. Next month, January, Capricorn baby. I'm gonna be 27, so it's close enough to 30, and plus the 5 goddamn years I feel like I've aged since 2020. I feel like I'm ripe for Steely Dan to latch onto my brain. It's like
you've become Dan compatible. That's what they call it.
Dan compatible. Yeah, I can what's it called? In Pacific Rim. Like
you can now pair with the kaiju of Donald Fagen and Walter Becker.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like it's perfect now. And I got into really Asia and Gaucho first, and honestly just those two albums for a while. Then I was like, what's this Pretzel Logic all about? And I was like, hang on a second, they sound like a real band. What the fuck is going on here?
Did you not think they were a real band before?
Well,
like,
I mean, like a full band. You know, with Steely Dan, it's like Well, I guess we should talk about the band.
We should talk about the band. Let's talk about how they started.
Yeah, let's talk about Steely Dan, because at the heart of it, you got Walter Dan Becker and Donald Steely Fagen. That's where they get the name of the band.
No, the way they actually got the name of the band was really interesting, but I do want to mention this. I was kind of reading.
Everyone knows.
Yeah,
right?
Naked Lunch, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. We'll talk about it in case people.
Naked Lunch was, by the way, like during this whole like lockdown thing, and in the intervening time between like seasons of this interminable podcast.
Yeah.
I did pick up reading Naked Lunch.
You did?
And yeah, that's just how my brain works now.
Did you finish it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how?
It was like hard mode House of Leaves, but
yeah. Well, see, I shouldn't judge, because my favorite book is Finnegan's Wake, and no one can read that, not even myself. The reason I like it is because it turns my brain into static.
Anyway, I was reading the Wikipedia article about Steely Dan, and apparently, Becker and Fagen met at Bard College, which I've heard a lot of memes about on the Insane Johnny Instagram page.
Yeah.
So now I'm beginning to understand that part of the lore. They're from New York. They're from like upstate New York, which is just like
they're East
off.
Coast boys. They're very, very East Coast.
Which is weird because they got a West Coast sound.
They're
the East Coast boys with a West Coast sound.
Yeah, I think that's the true yin and yang of the Steely, the Dan, the East and the West Coast of America. You got that. It's beautiful.
It's like they're East Coast boys, but they got a West Coast sound.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, like those East Coast boys.
Discovered that about though.
They've got a West Coast. Anyway,
yeah, they began playing together at Bard College, which I don't know. I don't know. We had a couple English listeners. If they're probably thinking Bard College. What, they go to Shakespeare College? But no, that's not that.
No,
Bard College is
it's a school.
Massachusetts?
No, it's in New York.
Where's in Massachusetts?
No, I think there's another school like that in Massachusetts. Bard College sounds like something that you have to pick as like a skill in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, you got to go to Bard College to become, a bard.
Anyway, as Fagen passed by a cafe, the Red Balloon, he heard Becker practicing the electric guitar. And here's the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life.
Okay.
In an interview, Fagen recounted the experience. I hear this guy practicing, and it sounded very professional and contemporary.
Uh-huh.
It sounded like, like a black person, really. What does that mean?
Okay, well, I think what he means is, I actually did watch the Asia documentary a couple days ago. He does mention how during that time and basically throughout his life, he has preferred what he called black music, R&B, soul music and stuff like that. I think maybe that's what he's getting at, maybe, but it's kind of a strange way to put it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the reverse of that scene. It's that scene in Elvis where it's like,
he's white.
He's white.
I think that black music is incredible, and like the fact that it was stolen by white people to make lesser versions of it, as with the entire early Beatles catalog. Basically,
we can't go even just one episode without fucking taking a pot shot at the Beatles, can we?
I became a little bit of a Beatles head.
Don't even start. No. Okay, continue with the cafe anecdote. Is there any more to the anecdote?
That's just such a bizarre way to put it, really. He introduced himself to Becker and said, "Do you want to be in a band?" And I feel like that's how 90% of bands in the 60s and 70s started.
Yeah, it just happened to be like two incredibly talented songwriters and musicians They just sort of run into each other one day and they're like, yeah, I guess I could work with you for a while.
Yeah, I feel like they crashed like shopping carts at the store. I don't know if they had stores back then.
What are they, jackass?
They crashed shopping carts, riding them down the way. No, they just probably crashed them or something. And then they began a decades-long creative collaboration that garnered them millions and millions of dollars. It feels like it was easier to be in a band that became extremely famous in the 70s.
Things were just easier in the 60s. Like, you would just go into a building and go, hey, could I have a job? And anyone who heard you first would give you a job.
Hey, by the way, that's what happened here.
Yeah, exactly. They began playing together. Becker says, whenever there was a social function that demanded a cheap rhythm section, we were there. Yeah, I got quotes too, Mace. You think you're so fucking special? I'm quoting from Major Dudes, a Steely Dan compendium, I think is the name of the book. It's a collection of interviews and stuff.
It's a hell of a title.
Yeah. Out of the, he says there's two branches. I don't know what he means by that. The New York branch and the Boston branch. I guess that's why I thought there was a Massachusetts. I guess there's a Bard branch in Boston. Out of the Boston branch came Jeff Skunk Baxter, erstwhile guitar and steel player, who was once a member of the Boston Sound Pacesetters' Ultimate Spinach.
What?
There was a guy in Boston who was like, that San Francisco sound, that Haight-Ashbury psychedelic rock stuff? Well, what if I just copied that and called it the Boston Sound and then made a bunch of money off of it? And then he formed a bunch of bands. And then
so you're saying this is another East Coast boy with a West Coast sound?
Exactly. This is another. So Jeff Skunk Baxter, East Coast boy, West Coast sound. That's how you end up in Steely Dan. That's how it happens. So he ends up playing with the guys, Walter and Donald, and they also meet Denny Diaz.
Oh, the founder of Denny's.
The
Holy
founder
shit.
of Denny. What's the? Yeah, that's his name. Yeah, because Jeff Skunk Baxter, right? That's his nickname.
Yeah.
Right. You got Donald Steely Fagan. You got Walter Dan Becker. That's how they get the name of the band, right? You got Denny Grand Slam Diaz. Diaz. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. It's an S at the end. And I think Denny, he's looking for a band. He's a guitarist, and he's looking for a band, so he puts an ad in the paper. And he's looking for a band, and I think part of the ad reads, "Assholes need not apply." And so Walter Donald and the gang, join him, and then they do Steely Dan. They find a drummer. I can't remember his name. He's just the drummer who gives a shit.
That's how it works.
Sorry. We're skipping some stuff. And they move to L.A., where they get a deal at ABC Records.
Oh, fuck. Now they're the West Coast boys with a West Coast sound.
Now they're the West Coast boys with the East Coast sound.
Oh,
but with a little bit of West Coast thrown in there.
A little bit of that Midwest sound.
We're skipping a lot because we're doing 2 albums per episode. We're already at the 20-minute mark, and I really, really want to talk about Can't Buy You a Thrill.
I think that Can't Buy You a Thrill is a fucking incredible album.
Their debut sounds so fully formed, it makes me want to cry.
Honestly, how do you knock it out of the park like that? Like, on the first go.
I was, like I said, both of us started with Asia, right?
Yeah.
And that's a very different sound.
Yeah, that's Asia. We'll get to it.
Yeah, but this is 1972. Steely Dan is a full band. It's not just Walter and Donald. Spoilers. There's going to be some stuff around album 3. But yeah, they record this in LA.
Yeah.
And Donald and Walter, they moved there. Their producer who produced the album, Gary Katz, gets them a job there. That's why they all relocate there from New York.
Yeah.
And they kind of don't like LA.
I mean,
which becomes
nobody really does.
It becomes a recurring theme in their entire discography about how fucking horrible LA is. I'm so sorry.
No,
you live there. I'm sorry.
That's totally. They're not wrong. Is the thing, and the place where the Village is located, like the recording studio, is like my least favorite part of Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, what's it all about?
It's in West LA. I don't give a shit about that place. I don't give a shit about any. maybe I'm just like generalizing a little too much, but fuck West LA.
I don't know. Anyone in West LA, email Mace
Yeah,
about it, I guess.
just go ahead and shoot me an email, me at maceq.com. I will take any and all hate mail.
Wow.
Yeah. Basically, the place where they recorded, I have just a couple little tidbits.
Okay.
That actually used to be a transcendental meditation center for the Maharishi, Mahesh Yogi.
Yeah.
Which gives us a little bit of a Beatles link. Fuck them.
Every time you insist on bringing them up.
It turns out that the Maharishi was not a good person. It's fine.
Yeah,
they wrote like a whole song about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that is where I believe that is where KCRW, our local good radio station. There's just like one of them.
Well, if they're good, if they're so good, then why don't they play track 1 of Off Can't Buy You a Thrill, entitled "Do It Again"?
They do all the time.
Good, because it's a good song, Mace. Okay? It's a good song.
It's a fucking great song.
I'm sorry if that's not politically correct.
You know what?
But I like "Do It Again" by Steely Dan.
You say what you're thinking. It is... I can't believe... It makes me mad to listen to this album because it starts with such like a hard hitter. I get...
Yeah.
I get big Santana vibes from this one.
Yeah, you hear the open and you're like, am I going to watch the George Lopez show? What's going on?
Yeah, and it is fucking awesome.
I love it.
How are these boys so goated up with the sauce?
They're goated up with the fucking sauce. Oh my god, they just have it immediately, right? So Donald and Walter, they get into this band and they just immediately start cranking out the hits, right? Like they just instantly, like there's no question among anyone else in the band that, okay, these are the songwriters.
Yeah.
And they just crank them out. Oh, it's so good. There's a great little, I mean, and also, they're also like fantastic performers. Like there's a little solo, there's an organ solo played on it's a plastic organ. It's a Yamaha YC30. Played by Donald Steely Fagan with the sliding pitch bending control.
I hope you're keeping track of that, the middle names.
Yeah, I am, of course. Yeah, we'll get to the other members that I haven't gotten into yet. We mentioned the drummer, and there's we'll get to a guy, but basically, I love this song. It's very. I wasn't expecting it to be so yacht rock, like because Asia isn't. Right?
No, absolutely not.
I remember, like, so I listened to Asia and then Gaucho a lot, and I just went back and forth, and then I listened to Pretzel Logic, and I was like, wow, this is different. Maybe I should start from the beginning. And then I listened to this one, right? And this was a very... This whole album, honestly, and this song in particular, too, the whole album is like the most 1972 thing I've heard in a long time.
And you know what? It's better for it, because I think that, like... This is the kind of music you needed to be making in 1972. It was like...
Yeah, but I think it's aged really well. Like, it evokes that time, but it's, like, way more... Like, even just with Do It Again, like, you immediately can tell that this is not just regular pop music.
Yeah. And this is just, like, it's written beautifully. Apparently, this song was written by Joe Biden. Did you know that?
What? Why?
The entire chorus is like, you go back, Jack, do it again.
Shut up.
It's written by Joe Biden.
Wow,
He's got a writing credit on there.
That's how he got his start. That's
Joe
how
Biden
we know.
and
That's
Corn
how
Pop.
he's so famous.
Yeah. That's what he became known for.
You know what? Shout out to Brandon.
Shout out to Brandon.
That should be the slogan.
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, Do It Again is great. Really nice harmonies.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's hard to say anything else. It's their second highest charting single in their history. I think it got to number 6.
How do you open an album with your second highest charter? How are you so that talented?
On your debut album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like if the Beatles opened up, like, they just started with fucking A Day in the Life. If they just, like, knocked it right out of the park immediately.
It really does feel like that, where it's just like, we're Steely fucking Dan, and you're here to listen.
God, welcome to picking up something good.
Yeah.
Okay, track 2. Let's talk about doing that dirty work, that dirty jobs with Mike Rowe.
Yeah, so, my first reaction when I first heard this song was, oh, I know this song. This is Steely Dan? I had no idea. This is a song you hear, like, years ago at, like, a grocery store.
It's in The Sopranos.
It's in The Sopranos, too, yeah. I just never knew it was a Steely Dan song until I like actually went back and listened to this album. I was like, oh wow, okay, it's them. Because guess what? It's not Donald Fagen on the lead vocals.
Nope, it is not.
Some other fucking guy.
It is. It's David Palmer. David the Pipes Palmer. David the Pipes Palmer. There he is.
He was hired. Get this. He was hired like midway through the recording of the album because it turns out that Donald Fagen wasn't comfortable performing live as the lead vocalist quite yet. He had a little bit of stage fright.
Which is insane, by the way.
Which is like, I'm not trying to make fun of him because I also, I know that feeling. Yeah. But then you think about like what they went on to accomplish and it's just kind of like, Donald, respectfully get over yourself.
Come on. It's like at the beginning of the Flaming Lips where Wayne Coyne's brother was actually the lead vocalist, and it was not great.
Right, it's like, and I kinda, unfortunately, I'm so sorry, the Pipes, Palmer, but I don't like his vocals on this track.
No, but I do like the ending there where it kind of repeats, I'm a fool to do your dirty work. That is so good.
Oh, I think the chorus is really good with the harmonies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think that's great, but I think the verses kind of sound a little too folk rock.
You know what? Yeah, they're a little folk rock for what this album is.
I mean, well, the thing is with this whole album is that it does get varied, but I felt like the vocals didn't quite match the backing track. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, that completely makes sense.
I think it's a fun little song. It's very, the first two songs lyrically. Let's talk about the lyrics. They're very cynical.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is like...
It's a very cynical band. The first song is just like, you know, the first line in the album is like, you know, a man stealing your water, and it's very dramatic, and it's like there's fights. There's a guy with a gambling problem at the end there, and the dirty work is like as far as I can tell, it's about an affair between a man and a married woman, and he's just like sick of being like second fiddle or something. Like he's like starting to be like, oh great, I'm just some fucking guy that you gotta like sneak around.
Yeah, and it just, I feel like this is like what Radiohead would have sounded like in the 70s.
Dirty work, really?
No, just like in general, like the lyrical content.
Oh, the lyrical,
I feel like there wasn't really much to worry about except like they didn't have gas for a little while, and I think Jimmy Carter was.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. 1972. I don't know when the gas stuff happened. Oh, you know, Steely Dan was very, very concerned about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Beside themselves,
they probably had like a ton of things on their car that was like no gas, smiley face. That's all I ever see. I have no. Are we gonna get canceled for this? For kind of throwing away the 70s?
Throwing away the 70s? What do you mean?
Yeah, just kind of like de-emphasizing what happened in the 70s because I have no idea.
Oh, well, that doesn't matter. We're talking about Steely Dan. Like,
yeah, fuck it.
They're not like, you know, they're not making protest music where we have to explain the context of like, well, they're talking about the Vietnam War here. They mostly talk about loose women and drug abuse. That's kind of their thing.
Yeah, that's kind of like that's.
Do we need to get into the whole whatever Jimmy Carter was doing? I feel like people don't need that.
I feel like Jimmy Carter was growing like mutant peanuts or something. I think
he's doing some weird shit with peanuts. I bet. I don't even think he was listening to Steely Dan.
He was trying to make the first peanut you could fuck.
He was a freak. That's for sure. I'm so glad we never had a president like him again.
Yeah. Anyway, Kings. Holy shit.
Yeah, Kings. What do you have to say about Kings?
The chorus of Kings has been stuck in my head for several days.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Holy crap. What is this about? Who is this about?
Oh, Kings is I'm trying to remember because I've listened to the first two albums so often. Oh, this is the one The Good King Richard.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay, yeah. I don't know. This is like I kind of felt like sort of a send up of Authority maybe.
Oh shit, they got us.
I don't know. Like I think they're getting a little banky maybe.
Yeah,
the
remember
70s,
how we were,
I guess we are going to talk about it. I mean, 70s in politics in America, it was kind of like people were
mad.
There was a bunch of stuff happening. See, we don't really know much about the 70s. People were mad about something.
People were mad. Like, I know about the 60s, I know about the 80s, I don't know anything about the 70s, because it felt like a time that everything was in decay for some reason. Anyway, apparently on the actual liner notes for this album, King's, right under it is the subtitle for it is "No Political Significance."
Oh, they do say that?
They do say that, but obviously, yes, it is like a political song, it sounds like.
At the time, it was Richard Nixon as president. So, like, I'm sure that we've seen the last of good King Richard. Reign out the past, his name lives on and on. Roll out the bones and raise up your pitcher. Raise up your glass to good King John. So, I'm wondering, like, are you sure you weren't talking about Richard Nixon, you guys?
It's probably about Richard Nixon.
You sure about that?
It's probably about just like what I'm seeing here is just it seems like it was disappointment and conservatism, which is like same.
Yeah, but again, it's not hopeful. It's not a hopeful like, oh, we'll get through this difficult time. Yeah. The bridge and though we sung his fame, we all went hungry just the same.
Yeah.
They're not pleased. But very catchy tune. I don't think it's my absolute favorite, but it's so good.
No, it's so good. It's so good.
Oh, God, this album is getting really good.
Ugh.
And then
Midnight Cruiser.
I don't like this one.
It's just a little weird.
I don't know why. There's something about it that it's just a little bit. I can't put my finger on it.
I mean, you can't because it's music, but
it's really. Have you tried? I mean, you can put your finger on a record, right? But that's the record. That's not the music. But there's like notes that you hear. Can't put a finger on that.
Also, the song was sung by the drummer, so
yeah. So Jim
Hodder.
What was his nickname again? Do you have it in your notes what his nickname was? Jim Hodder?
Yeah, Jim the Hi-Hat Hodder.
Jim the Hi-Hat Hodder, of course, yeah. And I don't think he did a bad job.
I think he did fine. I think it's very... What Genius is telling me here is that it's, the subject of the song is an aimless wanderer lamenting his lost opportunities and the bygone prime of his life. I feel like many, many, many songs have done this better.
Yeah, this does start a tradition of Steely Dan songs about, well, a loser. I mean, he calls himself that directly.
It's
in
like
the
some
song.
piece of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, like Deacon Blues is obviously like the pinnacle of the form of the song about losers they write. But yeah, this is I'm another gentleman loser is a really fun lyric.
This is where Beck got the idea for a loser.
I bet he did. That bastard.
The fucking Beck.
I hate that guy.
It's just like a fine song. I think that it's not quite as memorable as the rest of them, of course.
Yeah, well, so the problem is I think I know the problem. There's not enough jazz in it.
You know what? You're right.
I come to Steely Dan for a little bit of rock and a little bit of jazz.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit too much rock. I think that is my problem with a lot of early Steely Dan, where even though the song is good and I'm like, it's a toe tapper, look at my toe, it's tapping, I'm like, boys, where are those funky chord changes?
I feel like this is like something you'd hear in like a bar.
Yeah, and it's not the kind of bar that I would go to. I don't think it's a bad bar. I just don't think it's my kind of bar. Also, I don't drink anymore, and that kind of complicates things.
Yeah, I mean, I go to board game bars.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you're a nerd.
Yeah. I go to board game bars where they have, like, mead on tap. It's fine.
Jesus.
Anyway.
Well, only a fool would say that.
I love how we, like, tried to beat each other to it.
We both saw the perfect transition to the perfect fucking song. This is my favorite song on the album.
This is awesome.
Only a fool would say that. It's so good. Yeah. It's so fucking jazzy. It really makes up for Midnight Cruiser. Like, they just like, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. You wanted jazz? I'll give you some fucking jazz.
And also, like, I love the very first verse where he's like, yeah, you think you wear a nice hat? You think you're fucking cool?
Boy, the plan, a natural man wearing a white Stetson hat.
You got a nice hat, asshole?
Oh, you think you're a nice fucking hat? I love everything about this song. It's basically just a song of just like, oh, you think you're so fucking cool. You don't even know anything, man. You don't even know. Yeah. It's so good. I know so many people I want to send this song to. Just see if they pick up that I'm talking about them.
Yeah.
What's that,
There's like a lot of clothes references here.
Yeah.
He's got his shoes and his hat. I feel like the Steely Dan guys, since they're the West Coast boys with the East Coast sound now, they might be barefoot is legal guys.
Are they? They probably might be.
I feel like they're on this album they approach barefoot is legal or like a sensible shoe.
Do you think this is the kind of, so Steely Dan's in the era that they're like, if this album were a person, they would wear those weird toe shoes that certain kind of granola types wear. This isn't this isn't a hippie record. This is an anti-hippie record, honestly, to be honest.
No, yeah, this is a completely anti-hippie.
But there's like a little bit of a more earthy kind of rock vibe to it that I feel like if the album were a person, it might wear some toe shoes sometimes. I don't know. Especially with the song that we're about to talk about. I mean, we could talk to the song directly if we want to, if we can have a seance about the song.
Yeah.
But this song isn't toe shoes though. Only a fool would say that is a really like, this is a work sneaker.
Yeah, I think it's a good sensible shoe.
It's a good sensible shoe.
Yeah. I think that, we kind of maybe underestimated how much Steely Dan were actually talking about politics. Because I feel like
it seems like this is also very political. Yeah, because it's like, the pre-chorus here, you do his 9 to 5, drag yourself home half alive, and there on the screen, a man with a dream. It's very like, you go and actually do like a working man's job and then think about what it's like seeing a guy who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about talk about, the American dream or whatever.
Yeah, 99% of politicians and yeah.
Yeah. And then the bridge, anybody on the street has murder in his eyes, you feel no pain and you're younger than you realize.
This is a big like
absolutely brutal takedown of a kind of guy.
Yeah. It's just like,
and it's so catchy.
You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. The people that are out here working are not like, they're too busy doing what they need to do to stay alive in order to, maybe have the hope of living the life that you live.
Exactly. Idiot. I hope you're listening to this, the person this song's about.
Yeah, I hope you haven't died yet.
Sort yourself out. You're probably really old, too.
Yeah, asshole.
Well, no, it's not about a specific guy. Because this kind of fool who would say that still says that.
Yeah.
So it's evergreen, as the kids say.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Reelin' in the Years. Are you ready? I'm fucking ready to talk about Reelin' in the Years because it leads to I got a whole thing.
Reelin' in the Years whips ass, and I didn't know it was a Steely Dan song.
I also had the same thing. And the other thing is like, Dirty Work and Reelin' in the Years are very big songs that you just sort of, it's those songs that you just kind of know about, if that makes sense.
Right. It's kind of like Sweet Caroline. I have no idea who sings that song.
Yeah, but you just know it. Like, there's just songs that are so ubiquitous that you just know.
Yeah, and I know that people add lyrics to it that they shouldn't.
Yeah, and it's very... where do they get off adding words to songs that aren't the words? And then don't even get me started on Weird Al. I think he's a menace.
But yeah, this is one of those just like ephemeral songs that exists in the universe.
Ephemeral?
And now, well, not ephemeral. I think it's a wrong word. Like,
yeah, because ephemeral means it would just it's fading.
Right.
It's the opposite.
It's like mist, I think. It just it always
just
existed.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you mean by that. Yeah. So it's really funny because I didn't think this was a Steely Dan song until I listened to the album and go, oh shit, okay. But I also didn't think it was the same band who did Dirty Work. I thought those were two different bands.
Right.
Like, that's the cool thing about this record, is that it does sound like they do. There's a through line, but they get to so many different areas and vibes that I think is still really amazing for a debut album, that they just have it.
Right, yeah.
But this song is also very 1972. This is a song that, like... This is a song I imagine a very lazy filmmaker would use as, like, my film is set in the period, so here you go.
Yeah, I feel like this is, like...
It's not the song's fault.
Yeah, it's not the song's fault, but I feel like earlier in his career, Paul Thomas Anderson would have used it, or Tarantino would have used it to mark the beginning of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or something like that.
Possibly. I think it's a little too obvious for Tarantino. I think it's a slightly worse filmmaker's choice. But it's a really good song. Oh my god, that chorus. Yeah. That really full harmony where it's just everyone in on it.
Yeah, everybody from the 70s. Everybody.
Are you reeling in the ears? Stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine?
That is so fucking good.
And the, like, sort of quick talk sing delivery that Donald does in the verses is great. That, the lyrics, there's so many good lyrics that I feel like I could just read out the entire lyric sheet and be like, that's my favorite lyric.
Yeah, like the whole damn thing.
You're telling me you're a genius since you were 17, and all the time I've known you, I still don't know what you mean.
Fucking got him.
Got him. Again, another brutal takedown. They're really good at these. The weekend at the college didn't turn out like you planned. The things that pass for knowledge I can't understand is so good.
Oof.
Yeah, and this genius annotation, I didn't know this. That weekend at the college didn't turn out as you planned is apparently based on lead singer Donald Fagen's high school girlfriend Dorothy White visited him at Bard College for the weekend and ended up getting arrested for smoking weed.
Jesus.
Another interpretation is that she dropped out rather quickly after starting. So fast that it felt like she only spent a weekend there. But, Donald Fagen, high school girlfriend,
Wait, hold on. What does this mean? Was it his high school? Like, was it his girlfriend from high school?
Yeah, I was like...
Or was it his girlfriend who he dated that was in high school?
Right, I know. Like, this genius annotation has me like, I must do further research. What the fuck, man?
This is unclear.
Anyway, ignore all of the songs in their oeuvre about teenagers. Anyway.
Oh, there's that word again, oeuvre.
Yeah,
I used to think that but before I had ever heard this song before, which is so far gone at this point, it's probably like I used to confuse this a lot with Simply Red's Holding Back the Years, which is a completely different song by the way.
The titles are similar. I see.
I was like, oh yeah, Simply Red, they did Reelin' in the Years, and I'm like, no, that's a different band.
They have not done that. That is a separate oeuvre.
That is a completely separate oeuvre.
Yeah.
Apparently, Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin thinks that the guitar solo on Reelin' in the Years is his favorite solo of all time.
Okay. Which what?
Which I'm reticent to trust a guy in Led Zeppelin.
Look, I know, but that guitar solo is so fucking good. Oh my god. Like, I think even Steely and Dan themselves agree that, like, it's a big part of why it became a hit. I think they're giving it a lot of credit there. I think the whole thing is the reason it's a hit. I mean, you heard that chorus, right?
Right. Yeah, Elliot the Strings Randall, like, fuck that shit up real good.
No, Elliot the Seer Randall.
I thought it was the Strings.
His nickname is the Seer because I'm so glad we get to talk about this solo and the person responsible for it. Elliot Randall is an American guitarist best known for being a session musician, right? So he's not a guy who joins bands for being in the band. He joins them just for session stuff, which is cool.
He's just a guy that's in them.
You can back in those days, you work in LA as a good enough session musician, you can make a ton of money. Like, holy shit. I'm like, I really rarely go, I was born in the wrong generation, but sometimes I think about like that Wrecking Crew documentary and just like how they were just like, oh yeah, we were good enough that people just like were constantly hiring us. I
think you would have fucking killed it as like a session musician, yeah.
Or just as a composer, like there was so much work for musicians. What happened to all of the jobs?
I feel like if you had been a session musician growing up in the 70s, by this point, you and Wendy Carlos would be best friends.
Oh man, that's my dream. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, Elliot Randall has a career that is it's pretty good. Yeah, he did some stuff, but he did let's see here. I lost my train of thought. Hang on. So he met Donald Fagen and Walter Becker years previously when they were still touring musicians for a band called Jay and the Americans.
Yeah.
He recorded some demos with them, and they went their separate ways. In 1972, the year they were recording Can't Buy You a Thrill, he left New York for California. He reunited with Becker Fagan and childhood friend Jeff Skunk Baxter, which, before we even talk about the second album, there's going to be an entire kind of mini segment about him, because I need to talk about Jeff Skunk Baxter.
I feel like a guy whose nickname is Skunk can't be any good, right?
My god, you have no fucking clue. Anyway, so his solo on Reeling in the Years was like, it was a really big part of the appeal. It was a very popular song, and his solo was very notable, and it got him a lot of work. Mm-hmm. He also, so he began getting calls from other artists. He did a lot of session work. Steely Dan approached him.
What, like together or like?
Yeah, Steely
separate?
and Dan both as a unit. They walk in step with each other.
I imagine they like speak at the same time.
They
too,
also
right?
speak in unison. Yes, they are but one mind. Steely and Dan, Walter and Donald.
They share a colon.
They somehow share a colon, even though they are not conjoined. They refuse to tell us how or why. But anyway, they approach Elliot Randall at one point and go, "Hey, man, we love your work. I think you're an excellent guitarist. What do you say about becoming Steely Dan material for permanent? How about you want to join Steely Dan?"
Huh.
But he politely declined.
What?
He felt that the band's dynamics would make the band dissolve after the third album, which it did. That is why his nickname is the Seer. He saw, he sees, and he will always see.
He was right.
Mm-hmm.
He was completely right.
He just called it. It was like Babe Ruth in the fucking home run. He called his shot. He's like, no, this shit isn't going to last. You guys aren't going to want to keep a whole band. It's just going to be you two hiring random session musicians after the third album. And they're like, you're crazy. Get out of here. Steely Dan would never break up. We love Denny and the drummer and Jeff Skunk. We would never.
And then they did.
And they absolutely did. I don't think it was contentious or anything, but they absolutely, he was right. Randall went on to become a touring member of Sha Na Na in 1974.
Hey there, welcome to Picking Up Something Good, a limited run prestige podcast about Sha Na Na.
Absolutely not.
I have never heard of Sha Na Na before.
And you will not hear it on the podcast again. He did join Steely Dan again for their fourth and fifth albums, again, just for session work. He had a history of turning down permanent gigs. It wasn't just Steely Dan. Because Sha Na Na also, I assume. And he was like, nope, just want to tour with you and then move on. John Belushi asked him to be the musical director for the Blues Brothers, a position he also turned down.
What?
Jeff Porcaro and David Pike, I don't know how to pronounce his name, they offered Randall the chance to be a founding member of Toto, which he also rejected.
This man had so many opportunities to get it even on the ground floor of things.
The ground floor of Steely Dan, the ground floor of the Blues Brothers, and the ground floor of Toto.
Next, you're going to tell me that this man was, like, recruited to be in the Beatles.
No, he really preferred being a session player. That's just what he liked to do.
That's insane.
Yeah. He didn't want to be locked down, I guess. Yeah.
The perpetually freelance.
Yeah. I think it's incredible. Yeah. I wanted to shout him out specifically while we talked about Reeling in the Years, because I shout out to Elliot the Seer Randall for knowing.
I think he might be the musical equivalent of that meme that's like, shows up, plays the most insane guitar solo you ever heard, refuses to elaborate, leaves.
No, that's literally what he did. That's exactly what he did. And they begged him to stay, and he's like, I'm already gone. And he was.
Holy shit. Anyway, Fire in the Hole's about draft dodging.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how wrong we were about them not being political at all. It's
yeah,
almost as if they're quite insightful.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's almost like they had their finger on the pulse of the 1970s.
Yeah, but I mean, the reason I'm like, they don't do protest songs. Like, they're not overt about it. Like, in the liner notes, they do say, this isn't political at all. Like, they do, yeah. I mean, it's knowing, it's winking, it is political. But they don't seem like they want to be a political band. Does that make sense? But they're still
doing it, yeah.
I mean, it's 1972. Fucking Nixon is the president and the Vietnam War is happening. It's kind of hard not to.
There's a whole draft.
Yeah, I feel like it's, like, impossible not to, like, be an American with the kind of, conscience that these guys had and not want to like write a song about how it's fucked up.
Yeah, and I mean, the first couple lines are like, I decline to walk the line, they tell me that I'm lazy, is very much like, I guess, to me it sounds like, declining to go to war and, die in the jungle for some dumbass political reason.
Yeah.
And, like, the people who were there for, like, World War I and II are looking at him like, that's dumb. But, like, you guys were fighting for, like, a different thing. Back then, they were punching Nazis, and now, they're calling you stupid for not wanting to go die for, like, no reason.
Because these people who aren't Americans and we have no business telling them what to do want to be communist, and that would be bad.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of impossible not to comment upon that. And that's the song. I like it. I think it's a little... Where's the jazz?
Yeah. I mean, I like it, though.
It's good. Yeah. But
I think it really speaks to me, like, lyrically. I wish there was a little more jazz, but...
I will say this about the songs that I don't like musically, is that lyrically there is something to keep my attention. Like, I don't really like Midnight Cruiser because it's long and a little bit boring.
Yeah.
But there's moments that I will, pop music in 1972 didn't really do that. Like, if the music wasn't happening, then what the fuck were the lyrics,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I have no problem with Fire in the Hole, but it's not the most memorable. It's not jumping out at me at the moment.
Right, of course.
What about, what do you think about Brooklyn Owes the Charmer Under Me?
There's a lot of songs that mention, like, New York. It's almost like they're from New York.
It's almost like they're New York boys.
It's almost like they're East Coast boys.
East Coast boys with that West Coast sound.
Yeah.
I also kind of don't I don't know.
I don't really care about this one. I feel like every time I listen to it and I hear this one, I'm like, oh, the album's over. Because it feels like a closer for some reason.
It feels like a little bit like, okay, we're done.
And yeah,
and then there's two more songs.
Yeah, I look at it, I'm like, wait, hold on, there's two more. This is like, it's okay.
It's a little bit, yeah.
I don't have much to say about it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I lived in Brooklyn for a little while. I guess it does feel like Brooklyn.
That's kind of why it doesn't do anything for me, because I'm like, yeah, I get what you're going for, you guys, but like, I don't have this emotion for Brooklyn.
It feels very much like, it's a loser song. It's like
another loser song, yeah, which is, I love that. Yeah. I love that they keep doing that. I think also lyrically it is also kind of weaker than some of the other songs, which is why it's not great. Actually, now talking about this, I do like Fire in the Hole better than I originally was saying.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, that did happen to me a couple times where it was like, Fire in the Hole, I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. And then I would listen to Brooklyn Owes the Charm Under Me, and I was like, okay, Fire in the Hole was pretty good, wasn't it? Change of the Guard, though.
Change of the Guard, holy shit.
Change of the Guard's good.
Fuck yeah.
We're running out of things to say, but this album...
it's just good!
It's just this album's just kind of good, is the thing.
Yeah. Like,
What do you have to say? What
we got past all the hitters.
Yeah, I have to say, like, the second half of the album is a little bit weaker.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, it's in the sense that, like, they're good, but they're not like, oh my god, I really gotta talk about every aspect of this. Mm-hmm. Like I would want to with, like, Reelin' in the Years or something.
Right.
It's good. It's a really good song. I really like Change of the Guard. I think it's another, like, it's another commentary song of just kind of like, if you want to get through the years, it's high time you played your card. If you live in this world, you're feeling the change of the guard. It's very like, wow, there's a lot of things happening. Isn't there?
Yeah. I think it's another song about the 70s, whatever it was called.
It's a very 1972 album. Okay, so when you get to track 9, where it's like, yeah, the 70s are still happening, it's like, yeah, Steely Dan.
It's clear that they just started.
Like, I get that. You don't even, like, wait for the rest of the 70s. God.
Like, you guys are living in, like, a pre-Star Wars world. Just wait.
You're so judgmental. You haven't even seen Star Wars. Come on. Nixon's doing fine. He hasn't even done Watergate yet. Grow up.
You haven't even seen Star Wars yet. You haven't even seen 1 minute of Star Wars every year.
Oh, man. So...
Someone should do a podcast about that.
Someone should do a podcast about Star Wars. That'd be fucked up.
Yeah. Anyway.
Not us. Turn That Heartbeat Over Again, I really like. This is...
Another loser song.
Another loser song. I love that there's so much. There's so much loser song. It really does put the title of the album in a funny light of just like, it's just a bunch of guys who, they just cannot buy a thrill. They could, but their life is so miserable that it's not going to work.
It's like an upbeat, like if you took all the Springsteen songs about being sad, and you made them upbeat, is what these loser songs are like.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Because this song's like, it's about a guy, he's like, he's turning a crime. He's like miserable about it. He doesn't want to.
Yeah.
He's asking Michael and Jesus to help, oh, please.
Michael? Flea?
Yeah, exactly, him. Yeah, another drunk loser.
Yeah, it's just, it's kind of a bummer.
It's a bummer, but they do with They Might Be Giants where the song isn't that much of a bummer, but the lyrics are.
Yeah.
Like the chorus is a little bit pleading, but it's a little bit bouncy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's kind of like, it kind of hits a little bit, but like you can tell there's like a profound sadness behind it.
Absolutely.
And also, much like They Might Be Giants, which I guess we'll be covering later on, after.
This is the stopgap between the Radiohead season and the They Might Be Giants season. We should have said that up front.
We should have said that up at the top. We haven't forgotten about that.
Yeah, don't worry. So thanks if you listened this long.
They do also mention in the third verse like a weird, much like a They Might Be Giants song, like a weird like American author.
Yeah, it was William Wright. I'm not familiar with him really.
They Might Be Giants also love to do that, where weren't they obsessed with just like one guy for a while?
Yeah, that one guy.
Like the guy they would have like masks of.
Yeah,
or
that
whatever.
one guy.
Who is the guy?
I think his name's also William.
But you know who I'm talking about, right?
Wait, actually, it might be that. Wait, hold on. William Wright. Hold on. I'm going to the They Might Be Giants wiki, because this actually might be, because he was also a writer. The guy that They Might Be Giants wore masks of, that old guy with the white hair.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to Google it because
we haven't
started. Yeah.
Hold on. No, I think it might be a different guy, because this guy's William Allen White, and the guy that Steely Dan is referencing is William Wright.
So so they're really close.
Yeah, that's weird. That's why I was like, hang on, is that the guy? No, that would be like a crazy coincidence. But no, these are different Williams. But yeah, I think this is a really good closer. It's after the like fake out closer of Brooklyn Knows the Charm Under Me. Very catchy, very smooth. This is the most yacht rock, I think. But for the guys who just crashed their yacht. Right?
For the guys who have just crashed their yacht and they're in the middle of a divorce.
Yeah, exactly. This is the like post yacht rock.
Holy shit, it's divorce music. Kinda?
It is,
isn't it?
It's a little bit divorce music, unfortunately.
Yeah,
unfortunately for us. Because it's what does it say about us that we like divorce music?
Yeah, we've covered a lot of divorce music on Picking Up Something Good.
We have. And we're going to cover fucking more in this big episode because we got another another album to talk about, Countdown to Ecstasy.
Yeah.
I think let's take a break, and then after this ad from our sponsors, probably like Casper Mattress or something. I bet we got some good sponsors lined up.
I bet we got a really good ad read with like a day of anticipation.
We do.
Yeah.
We'll be back with our comprehensive review of Countdown to Ecstasy.
Oh, thank you. I think this is the beginning of an unhealthy dependence.
Oh.
I'm a fool to do my dirty work. Oh, yeah. I can hire all these dirty jerks for free. I ain't gonna do my dirty work no more. Gonna leave my socks and dirty shirt on the floor.
All right, so thank you very much to Extreme Restraints for that advertisement.
Yeah, I'm so glad they're still in business.
I'm so glad they're still in business and advertising on podcasts as small as ours. That's wonderful.
Yeah, good for them. Now, we left off after reviewing Can't Buy a Thrill Are you picking up something good with that album, by the way? Because
I'm picking up some good. Our transmitters aren't working.
They're not working.
They don't
We're
exist.
not doing the transmitter.
I think that got me in a mood. I went ahead while we were, doing our 20-minute long extreme restraints ad.
Yeah.
I was out. I went to the fridge and I got a Christmas ale. And because it is, Steely Danceember,
Yeah.
I figured it would be good to, crack one open and just.
Yeah. And I'm California sober, so I can't partake with that. But I do have a joint that I could light up with you. It's sort of see the crack of a Bic lighter. It's kind of cracking open a cold one.
Yeah.
It's cracking open a hot one.
Cracking open a hot one and a cold one. So, we just kind of cancel each other out.
Yeah, all right. Cheers.
All right. Cheers. This is awesome. You had a story for me.
Speaking of weed, we got to talk about some skunk. Specifically, Jeff Skunk Baxter. That was terrible.
Let's hear about skunk.
Now, Jeff Skunk Baxter was the guitarist who wasn't named Denny. That was a part of Steely Dan. He was a member of Steely Dan for the first 3 albums. And he also did guitar, and he did that weird little bit of spoken word at the end of Only a Fool Would Say That.
Yeah.
What did he say there?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I couldn't quite catch it. But anyway, so he did guitar for the Dan. By the way, I've seen a bunch of writing, because I've been reading a bunch of articles and interviews from them. Like, some Steely Dan fans just call them the Dan. How do you feel about that?
That works,
Yeah.
but they're only naming one of the 2 guys.
Yeah, it's giving short shrift to Donald Steely Fagan. I had to remember which one was which.
Yeah, it's really giving. But I think it's like... Yeah, I think it's really shortchanging, but it's kind of like people calling the Grateful Dead the Dead. I don't really mind it too much.
They're dead, but they're also grateful. I feel
They're
it's
grateful
important
for being dead.
to point out. So anyway...
Can you imagine if we did a Grateful Dead podcast? This would become so insufferable.
I couldn't become that kind of person. We're already doing a Steely Dan podcast. That already makes me a kind of person I wasn't expecting.
I'm on the verge of becoming that kind of guy, but it's fine.
Well, we'll see how it goes. What was I saying? Our good friend
Skunk.
Our good friend Skunk. So yeah, he's on the first 3 albums. His signature guitar solo on Ricky Don't Lose That Number. It's classic. So he leaves his indelible mark on the band, and while finishing work on the 3rd album, Pretzel Logic, he became aware of Steely and Dan's intentions to retire Steely Dan from touring altogether and work exclusively in the studio with almost exclusively session players.
Yeah.
He was like, fuck that. I went to go join the Doobie Brothers in 1974.
What?
Yep. They were touring...
Mr. and Mrs. Doobie and their 2 sons.
Yep. The brothers Doob, indeed. He went to join them. They were, at the time, they were touring in support of their 4th album. And now this is pre-Michael McDonald.
Pre-Michael McDonald.
Except, there's an interesting little twist here in the story.
Uh-huh.
While preparing to tour in support of the 5th album, which at this point he's a full member of the band, Doobie Brothers founder Tom Johnston is hospitalized with some sort of stomach thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They need someone to fill in for vocals. Jeff Skunk Baxter remembers working with this guy named Michael when he was with Steely Dan, and he thought,
holy shit,
maybe Michael McDonald could fill in for a little bit.
Michael McDonald has been through so much in his life.
Yeah, with the founder and now ex-vocalist still convalescing, Michael McDonald makes such an incredible mark on the band that they're like, well, you're the lead vocalist now. Fuck that other guy. I hope his stomach gets good.
Holy shit!
And it's because of Skunk.
That is so deeply fucking, there's something really Republican about that, it feels like, right?
Oh, man. I'm so glad you said that. Anyway, You'll see why.
Uh-oh.
So you got McDonald's vocal, and you got Skunk's...
McDonald's vocal, the grimace voice.
And you got Skunk's jazzy guitar work. The Doobie Brothers enter the best phase of their career. They're working together on Minute by Minute. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? It spent 5 weeks at number 1.
Holy shit.
It's because of Baxter and Michael. So, early 1979, Skunk leaves the band. After that, he continues to work as a session guitarist for Eric Clapton, Sheryl Crow, Joni Mitchell, Ricky Nelson, Donnie Dolly Parton, Carly Simon, Ringo Starr, Gene Simmons, Rod Stewart, Barbra Streisand, Donna Summer, Elton John, Linda Ronstadt, basically everyone in the 70s.
Holy shit.
Now, this is pretty cool, right? It's a pretty solid career for any one life. And now I want to get to his second career.
What is his second career?
The reason I wanted to do this podcast, because you know, I got into a rabbit hole, right? And I texted you at 1 a.m. after I had read something so remarkable, I just had to tell someone. And it had to be on air on a podcast that I told it to.
Nikki, I'm scared.
I am mostly reading from Wikipedia because, again, we are a podcast with zero budget. That's what happens.
We don't have researchers.
I don't give a shit. Baxter fell into a second profession almost by accident. In the mid-80s... In the mid-80s, his interest in music recording technology led him to wonder about hardware and software originally developed for military use, specifically data compression algorithms and large-capacity storage devices.
What?
He was in luck because his next-door neighbor happened to be a retired engineer who worked on the Sidewinder missile program.
What?!
This neighbor bought Skunk a subscription to Aviation Week magazine, which provoked his interest in additional military-oriented publications, specifically missile defense systems in particular. He became self-taught in missile defense systems, and at one point wrote a 5-page paper that proposed converting the ship-based anti-aircraft Aegis missile into a rudimentary missile defense system.
I'm sorry?
He gave the paper to California Republican Congressman Dana Rohrabacher.
No.
And his career as a defense consultant began.
Fuck this! What?
Jeff Skunk Baxter received a series of security clearances so he could work with classified information.
Republicans will just hire anybody off the street, huh?
Hey, you were the Doobie Brothers. Hell yeah, get on in here.
This motherfucker was in the Doobie Brothers, and now he does missile defense?
And now he has security clearances. Now he has defense security clearances.
Can you...
What? In 1995, Pennsylvania Republican Congressman Kurt Weldon nominated Skunk. Again, this is a man who calls himself Skunk. He nominated Skunk to chair the Civilian Advisory Board for Ballistic Missile Defense. Famously, that board is responsible for the Star Wars system.
Holy shit.
This is after they did Star Wars, obviously, because it's the 90s, but this is who he's joining.
Right, it's Reagan's Star Wars
Right,
shit.
yeah, this is who he's joining. His work on that panel leads to consulting contracts with the Pentagon. He consults for the Department of Defense and the intelligence community at large. He also works with Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics.
Say Raytheon. Please say Raytheon.
It doesn't say Raytheon here, but you gotta imagine he's at least had one contract with Raytheon. It's his job.
Just Googled, I Googled Jeff Skunk Baxter Donald Trump.
Oh my god, no!
Because I wanted to know.
Yeah. What's the scoop?
Jeff Skunk Baxter stands between President Donald Trump and Kid Rock prior to the signing of the Orrin G. Hatch, Bob Goodlatte Music Modernization Act in the Roosevelt Room at the White House.
Oh my god!
October 11th, 2018.
No, I remember that, because I remember Kid Rock standing there and I'm like, yeah, he's gonna modernize music, all right. I didn't realize Skunk was there!
Skunk was right behind Kid Rock.
Oh my god!
Skunk was directly behind Kid Rock.
That's so fucked up!
What the fuck?
So this is an incredible quote from Baxter. So he's focused on terrorism and how to defeat that with missiles. That's his new career. He's also still a session musician during all this, by the way.
And he's just like sick licks, and also like we should be bombing people.
This is an incredible quote. You ready for this? Well, I swear to God, we'll get to the Countdown to Ecstasy album, but I needed to talk. This is the whole reason we're doing Steely Danceember, was to talk about how fucked up Jeff Skunk Baxter is.
What?
This is a quote from, God, let me check the, okay, it's a quote from 2007, apparently, according to Wikipedia. We thought turntables were for playing records until rappers began to use them as instruments. And we thought airplanes were for carrying passengers until terrorists realized they could be used as missiles. My big thing is to look at existing technologies and to try and see other ways that can be used, which happens in music all the time and happens to be what terrorists are incredibly good at.
You know, terrorism is just like when a rapper uses a turntable.
You know, remember 9/11? They were the real Public Enemy Limited, if you ask me.
9/11 and Jay-Z's The Blueprint came out on the same day.
Coincidence? I think not.
According to Skunk.
So that's
oh my
Skunk.
God.
And we'll be listening to more of his work on Countdown to Ecstasy, Steely Dan's second debut album.
It actually came out like 7 months after this first one.
That's kind of partly why I called it that, because it's incredible that they cranked out this good of an album directly after an already very good album.
Yeah, they were just like kind of knocking them out.
Wait, yeah, you're kidding me. Yeah, November 1972, Can't Buy a Thrill. July 73, Countdown to Ecstasy. That's fucked up.
Yeah, and ideally it was probably done before July, too.
Well, yeah, it was probably recorded in the months previously.
Yeah, I mean, that's how time works, Nikki.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, that's incredible. Wow.
I think that maybe Bodhisattva is my second favorite song about being Bodhisattva.
Yeah, what's your first?
Bodhisattva Vow by Beastie Boys.
Okay, yeah, I was hoping you'd say that one. That is the number one pick. This one's number 2. I don't know, this isn't about being Bodhisattva. This is about a guy who's just... I kind of got the sense now, I don't know, this is all my interpretation, but like the chorus of Bodhisattva, can you show me the shine of your Japan, the sparkle of your China, can you show me? And then he says, I'm going to sell my house I'm going to sell my house in town, right?
Yeah, because, you know, Buddhists, they renounce all their worldly possessions. I think it might be something...
But selling isn't renouncing, is it? That's because you are seeking a cash value for the home.
Right. I think that's like just like a weird way of putting it.
Well, so that's what led me to my interpretation that this is a guy who's caught up in some, like, you know, hippie subculture. He wants to get more...
Yeah.
You know, he's trying to get into Buddhism, but his heart's not really in it, and he doesn't quite get it.
And he's kind of misinterpreting it a little bit.
Yeah. Like, and even here, like, this was interesting. The genius annotation for the shine of your Japan, I wondered what that meant. And this is interesting, I'm glad to know. Japan used here as a double entendre. It refers both to the country of Japan, where Buddhism is popular, and to Japan Black, which is simply referred to as Japan sometimes, which is a black lacquer used in the United States during the early 20th century in the fabrication of products that are meant to be associated with Japan. So people would manufacture, like, plates, and they were supposed to evoke Japan, so they'd use, like, a special lacquer.
Right. And I think I have that, like, the idea of that in my brain. Something about that feels, like, xenophobic.
Well, that's what I mean, is I think calling it, like...
Yeah, being like, oh, this is the Japanese colors, you know?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely, right. Well, that's why I think that's why it's included here, is, like, the protagonist of the song is, like, talking about, like, fine china and, you know, dishes with Japan lacquer on it. And it's like, that's not what Buddhism is about. What are you talking about?
Yeah, completely just misinterpreting.
Plus, it's a blues number, so it's like... Tonally, it doesn't, like, vibe with what you think about when you think of Buddhism. So I think it's a really fun song.
Right. It's fun. Yeah, it's definitely like a sardonic kind of take.
Sardonic's a really good word for this album.
Yeah, I would say so.
The whole damn thing. Including... Also, what?
Real quick, I wanted to mention the album cover.
Yeah, let's talk about the album cover.
Real quick.
I love the font choice.
The font choice, that is, you know, the classic Euro-style font.
We love Euro
used
style.
by Radiohead on the Bends.
Yeah.
That is...
it makes it feel so modern.
It does. And it the 3 naked dudes on the cover, I think, they look like E.T.
No, they look like the aliens from Mac and Me.
You know what? Yeah. The McDonald's film Mac and Me.
Yeah.
And it's great that, you know, Michael McDonald at this point was involved with, yeah.
Oh, was he? Was he on this album?
I don't think so, but also I think it's really funny to make McDonald's jokes.
That's fair, yeah.
But yeah, it's what an album cover. Did you know that they had to add the 2 extra guys on the left, like the 2 ghost guys, because there were 5 guys in the band and only 3 guys on the cover, and literally the record label was like, "You need to add 2 more guys, or else people are going to be confused."
No, what, really?
Yeah.
What? That's so stupid.
That's really stupid, and
You don't
also
think, like, the like... That's such a classic, like, oh, well, our audience is very stupid. You shouldn't scare them by being abstract in even a slight way. That, like, I'm really glad doesn't... I mean, it kind of happens, but, like... I don't know, it's just very silly.
Record executives had no faith at all in, like, the American listening public in the 1970s. And I would say that they were maybe a little smarter than they are now.
Well, so, yeah, it's weird, because they were kind of both. There would be the kind of record executive that'd be like, Frank Zappa? Yeah, sure. Will it sell a bunch of records? Sure, let's put him out. And it wouldn't matter, right? But now, like, I think this is a quote from him or someone. Forget who I'm quoting, but they were like, but now executives think they know music. And they meddle more.
Yeah.
But also they did
like,
meddle then, but they meddled in weird stuff that didn't matter. Like, you need to put like 2 ghost men on the album to represent the drummer and the guitarist.
Whom are both dead.
Yeah, who are dead, I guess? I don't know. But, yeah, it's very funny.
Let's talk about the Razor Boy.
I like Razor Boy.
This song feels like a threat.
Oh, yeah, this is weird. Why are the women in cages, Razor Boy? My God.
And also, like, will you still have a song to sing when the Razor Boy comes?
Who's the Razor Boy? I'm scared.
I suppose that sounds to me like the Grim Reaper, and this annotation is backing that up.
Oh, of course.
But also, like, women in cages, the Razor Boy is coming. This seems... I am unsettled by this song.
Yeah, this is a song about death. It's gotta be. Right, will you still have a song to sing when the Razor Boy comes and takes your fancy things away? Will you still be singing it on that cold and windy day? I know I'm gonna die in winter. So,
yeah,
that just, it speaks to me.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's a sad state of affairs, I think.
Oh, man, and it just... So, Bodhisattva, it hits you with, like, a big blues number. And you're like, okay, so they got the rock... But where's the jazz? And they're like, hold up, you thought we didn't have fucking jazz anymore? Oh, you stupid little... Hey, they thought we didn't have jazz. Well, guess what, bitch? It's Razor Boy now.
Check it out, Steely. They don't think we have jazz.
Hit him with the jazz, Dan! And they did. They hit him with that jazz. Oh my god, it's so good. This album is like... It's like,
I
wow.
would say it's the better of the two.
Well, it absolutely is. It feels more... Like they understand now. Like they get it.
Like a thought. It feels like a complete thought. It's only 6 months after like the last one, which is weird.
I really feel like Can't Buy You a Thrill was kind of because they were all like session musicians, and you know the reason Walter and Donald got hired by the producer at the record label was to be like like house writers, right?
Right.
So. I think it was more of just like, Can't Buy You a Thrill was just like, okay, well, we know we can write songs. Let's try and figure out how this album making stuff works. And then I think Steely and Dan kind of like, oh, we like this, and now we get it. And then Countdown to Ecstasy is kind of the first like, okay, we know what we're doing now.
Yeah.
For
also,
sure.
I keep calling this album Countdown to Extinction, like the Disney attraction.
It's not that.
It's not that. It's not where you get on the little time rover and you go see the dinosaurs at Animal Kingdom. It's Countdown to Ecstasy.
Time rover sounds kind of fun.
It's actually really fun. It's based off the Indiana Jones adventure. I'm going to stop talking now.
Okay, great. Let's talk about the Boston Rag.
The Boston Rag is... These are just like... This is like summer of 69. Before summer of 69 came by.
Well, this is after. It's 1973.
Yeah, but like... Summer of 69 came out in like the 80s, didn't it?
Oh, you mean the song. You didn't mean the actual summer.
No,
I was like, they have already experienced the summer of 69.
In the summer of 69.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, no, this is a very, like, back in the old days, but it's not super boomer about it.
Yeah, it feels like Jack and Diane.
Lil Diddy.
About Jack and Diane. Suggin'.
Sorry. Yeah, no, it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of vague. Like, it's just kind of the good old days, but it doesn't really get into, like, what, like, and the Bring Back the Boston Rag, is newspapers used to be good back then.
It's also kind of sad, though, because, like, in the second verse, like, Lonnie is taking a ton of pills.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's that classic...
And then passes out for 2 days.
Classic drug shit. Apparently, Lonnie's based on a real guy that they knew when they were in college.
Is he dead?
So, apparently... I would assume so. Let's see. I'm in Major Dudes again, the book. There's a review of Countdown to Ecstasy that kind of gets into their Bard stuff and, like, all that jazz.
Yeah.
David Palmer's gone, by the way. There's no David Palmer anymore in vocals. It's all Steely from now on the box.
No Palmy, just Steely.
But to back him up, they got lady vocalists. Kind of like Soul Sister kind of sound ladies, which is another recurring theme that begins now.
Yeah, I get, like, Remain in Light energy from those backing vocals.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they add a nice flavor that was missing from the first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's I'm trying to find the actual anecdote. Yeah, so Boston Rag, there's a character named Lonnie the Kingpin, another Bard reference, this one widely shared. Lonnie was the sandwich man who would visit the dorms late at night, just as the munchies were making us ravenous, selling delicious ham and cheese sandwiches, potato chips, and cola beverages that quenched our weed-parched throats. The writer also went to Bard. So he's like, oh yeah, Lonnie, I know who they're fucking talking about.
That sandwich asshole.
That sandwich guy.
The hamburger dipshit.
He was the kingpin, yeah. He was the sandwich kingpin.
He was a sandwich kingpin.
But he also had a drug problem, which is why Steely Dan chose to sing about him, because they like singing about drug abuse. This song is good.
I feel like, a lot of Steely Dan songs feel like songs that Tim Allen absolutely got busted listening to when he was doing Cocaine Running in the 70s.
Yeah. Oh, you know Cocaine Allen was hopped up on some goofballs and a Steely Dan 8-track in his I couldn't think of a 70s car, whatever, fill in the blank.
He was listening to Steely Dan in his Ford Pinto while he was ratting out all his friends.
Also, there's no 7th Avenue in Boston. What gives, Steely?
I've never been to Boston. Have you?
Don't want to talk about it.
It's
Boston's scaly. I'm scared.
I mean, yeah, Red Sox fans.
They're so mean to me. No, Boston's fine. It's kind of stupid, but it's fine.
A little racist there.
That's why it's a little bit stupid.
Talk about Gold Teeth.
I love this fucking track.
Not the song. No, I want to talk about Gold Teeth.
Oh, just Gold Teeth? Yeah, I've been thinking about...
No, this song rocks.
Okay.
I was joking.
Okay. Yeah, this song fucking rocks. Boston Rag is a little bit kind of like, okay, the mood's coming down. Then Gold Teeth is like, yeah, Steely's back. It's that Dan flavor you've been missing since track 2.
Hell yeah. Also, like, this song mentions a lot of shit that I have no idea what it is.
I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about.
I have no idea who the fuck Kathy Barbarian is, but I know it was like a big thing in the 70s, and it mattered to people in the 70s.
She can't sing one roulade. I don't know what a roulade is.
Oh, she's an American soprano and composer. She kind of looks like... Yeah, no, she wasn't a soprano. Oh. She kind of looks like a proto Dolly Parton, but I think it's just because she's got really big hair.
Yeah, the big hair is... I've been confused. I thought I've seen Dolly Parton in public, but it was just someone with big hair. That's happened to me before, yeah.
That's happened. Yeah, you just... That just
I rush up to them and I go, Dolly, we share the same birthday! And then they go, I'm not that person. I've been looking for my entire life, looking forward to the day I meet Dolly Parton so I can tell her we have the same birthday, because I want to know what she'll say about it.
Have you been to Dollywood? It's really easy probably to find her, maybe.
Because I'm not made of money.
It's like $40 to go.
Yeah, but I gotta fly there.
That's true. Yeah. You gotta go there. Yeah. And you also gotta, like, drive. There's like, no airport or anything.
They should have an airport at Dollywood, Dollyland.
I should be able to land at Dolly. Yeah. I think
anyway,
there's like a big overarching thing on this record that's very much like, you know, no matter what you do, your life is going to catch up to you. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like gambling kind of references where like, yeah, sure, go ahead, roll the dice, idiot. Life still's going to get you. It's
like this and Razor Boy that feel like, you know, they feel part of a unit.
Yeah. Again, it's those East Coast boys, that West Coast sound. They're talking about the dirty, dirty streets of Brooklyn, and they got that smooth LA sound.
The ECB, WCB.
Exactly.
WCS.
The yin and the yang, the Steely and the Dan.
Steely and the Dan.
I love this song. I wish I knew what they meant by "There ain't nothing in Chicago for a monkey woman to do," because
that's something about that's weird.
Anyway,
Showbiz Kids is really, I think it might be my favorite song on the record because
you're from LA.
It's I'm from LA, born and raised, and it is very much like firing at the people that I hate.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. There's a lot of there's New York people. I'm sure they were firing shots at here too. But this is all about like another thing that pops up with Steely Dan is their pure hatred of the West Coast yuppie. Which
and Buddy, that is
Buddy,
I'm right with
fucking join the club, okay? Well, I guess we're joining their club. They were there first.
Yeah, they were.
But yeah, the refrain that goes through the whole song. I do think this song is very much like, boy, a lot of the people we've met in LA are really sleazy and terrible, and I think that's mostly what the song's about. But that refrain, they keep saying you go to Las Wages.
Yeah.
Las Vegas, kind of a play on Las Vegas, right?
It is Vegas because that is like a nickname for Vegas.
Oh, is that a known?
Yeah, I've heard Lost Wages before. It doesn't make any sense
because you don't because you go to like gamble your wages. Is that?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's what it feels like, and it's kind of a Mondegreen. It's like It sounds like Lost Wages.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. See, okay, that makes sense. So that's cool. I kind of get the vibe that they're talking about. They're really talking about. That bridge. Show business kids make movies of themselves. They don't give a fuck about anybody else. He's talking about L.A. people.
He's talking about LA kids, and he's talking about their beautiful bodies. He's talking about, like, just kind of firing back at, like, they are kids who don't give a fuck. They have a silver spoon in their mouths. They got the Steely Dan t-shirt, and for the coup de grace, they're outrageous.
Coup de grace. They say it wrong, too, which I think is fun. I think it's meant to be like, well, they would probably say it like this.
Probably. And it's just like, I think they're just like, oh, these are people who, like, they say they love Steely Dan, but, like, do they?
Well, so that's the thing. Here in Major Dudes, in the same review, this guy says, there's a line about fans wearing Steely Dan t-shirts, which I took as an inside joke, because as far as I knew, Steely Dan didn't have t-shirts yet.
Oh my God.
So it's like this whole, like... And also there's another Bard reference to a character named El Supremo. That El Supremo reference is apparent.
I have no idea who that is.
This guy also went to Bard, so I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Perhaps a bandito stoner in a dormitory mural, though I've never seen it. So I don't know, some probably racist mural at Bard. I don't know.
It was the 70s. Yeah, a lot happened.
A lot happened. Look, the Vietnam War, etc. Let them paint a mural of a bandito stoner at Bard College. Anyway, I like the song. No, that's not true. I love this song.
It's a great song. I also think that it, lampoons these people perfectly well.
They don't like wealth. They don't like flashy wealth.
Yeah.
And that comes up a lot.
I think that I could, get a drink with these guys and it would be fine. Except for the missile defense guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy. I would like to say to Jeff Skunk Baxter, go to hell.
I want him to... is he hearing this? I hope he hears this. And you know what? I hope I get deported from this stupid country.
I hope he uses his connections at the Department of Defense to put us on some sort of list where we have to defect to Cuba. Because I would love to go to Cuba. Oh my God, please. It would be so much better here.
No-fly list for saying that his music is bad.
I would love to never have to go on another airplane again.
Actually, the music is good, but, like, I wouldn't like to hang out with him. Yeah. Anyway.
Great guitar. Terrible man.
Yeah.
My old school. Gee, I wonder what school you're talking about, guys.
Yeah, I wonder what fucking school.
Where'd you go to school, Steely and Dan? Oh, Bard? You don't fucking talk about it.
It just fucking starts with a B and ends with Ard.
They go.
They went to Baudrillard.
They do. I mean, they directly say up to Annandale, which is the location of Bard College. So it is about them going to school there. I remember the 35 sweet goodbyes. This is a metaphor for his girl giving him a blowjob, apparently.
What is that? Why would it be 35? What?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes Genius annotations are like, all right, where's your source on that?
Like that, there's no 35.
I'm not doubting that Steely would sing about a blowjob in a roundabout way, but I'd like to see the source on this.
I'm just thinking about, like, the anatomy of a blowjob, that, like, there's no 35... Did she give him 35 of them? Did he count?
What? I don't... We're focusing too much on one line. When you put me up on the Wolverine, which is a nickname for the train from New York to Michigan, okay? There's a lot of inside stuff. There's a lot of references I didn't go to Bard, so I don't understand any of this.
These first two albums, I feel like you had to go to Bard in the 70s to understand them fully.
The thing about Steely Dan, you need to have a high Bard IQ to really get it.
Yeah, I feel like I had to go to Bard College for this.
So I think this is about an actual thing that happened.
Yes.
Right?
And also, they talk about William and Mary. It's about huge drug busts.
There would be drug busts, right? That's what I read. There'd be big drug busts at Bard.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably really low-hanging fruit, like doing a drug bust at a school it's like, in the 70s.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's Bard. Yeah, it's a bunch of hippies. A bunch of hippies are smoking weed? Yeah, good stuff, fucking Detective Columbo. How'd you figure that out? And that would be a reference they understood, because it was the era of Columbo.
Yeah, and then later in the song, it's like, California tumbles into the sea, that'll be the day I go back to Annandale. Like, he maybe can't go back to Bard College because he's been drug busted too many times.
Maybe he doesn't want to, or maybe he can't.
Yeah, and it's hard to kind of discern what it means. Also, the song ends with them wanting to flee to Mexico?
Yeah, except not Guadalajara. that won't do for the girl of the song. Well, I did not think the girl could be so cruel.
There is nothing wrong with Guadalajara.
No, I think I took that to mean she doesn't want to go to Mexico at all.
Yeah, that's fair.
And he's like, babe, we gotta run. Isn't it romantic? We're running away to Mexico together. She's like, I don't know, Guadalajara. It's like, what's your problem?
Yeah, I think this song is like actually maybe one of the more cinematic of the entire album.
Oh, hey, yeah. There's a big annotation about the specific event that sparked this. Just outside of Adolph's. Adolph's? Uh-oh.
Whoa!
He sees it, the house. Right there is the house that I was busted in, Donald Fagen says. So Steely himself got busted, gesturing toward a 2-story structure nearby. Here finally lies the story behind my old school. It was around 5 a.m. on a Thursday in May of '69. Nice. When a swarm of sheriff's deputies descended on Bard, sweeping through dorms and off-campus residences, including this small house where Steely lived with a roommate. They went up and down the halls, knocking on doors, says friend Terrence, not Steely, Bolin, who was in his room at Ward Manor at the time. Toilets were flushing everywhere to get rid of any pot that you had. I threw mine out the window. All you had to do was say to the cop, "What are you doing?" And they'd say, "That's it, resist an arrest." So
cops haven't changed.
Yeah, nothing's changed. Somebody would say, "What the hell is going on?" "Oh, profanity, arrest him."
You could be arrested for profanity in the 70s?
They would make up any excuse, right? Because you said hell,
of course, because they're cops.
Right. Fagen, so Steely Dan and Steely's girlfriend, Dorothy White, were all dragged off to jail. So
Steely Dan and Lady Steely?
Lady Steely, yes. I don't know if she continued to be Lady Steely, but she was at the time.
By the way, she drew the album art for this album.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
She did a fucking bang-up job. I love this painting.
Yeah.
It makes me feel emotions I didn't know I had and I'm slightly scared of.
I love it because it's just like, it's very like I said, E.T.
We didn't talk about the album art for the first one, only because it's just kind of like, the album art plus like some of the vibes in the song is very like Cheers, the television show. It's very
it kind of sucks ass.
I don't like the album art so much. It's a little too, doesn't represent the album well. Whereas this one, Countdown to Ecstasy, is like, yeah, I bet these pink weirdos are going to take me to ecstasy.
Yeah. Oh, also she did a lot of visual art for Katie Lyde and Asia.
Ooh, those,
which I suppose we'll talk about later.
They look fucking spectacular.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Pearl of the Quarter.
Pearl of the Quarter. This song is one I do not remember.
I don't really like it. It's a little bit too much of a ballad for me. That's right. Nikki Ballad Hater Flowers is back.
We're back.
Better than ever. If you were wondering if this was the same show, it is. They haven't changed.
It is absolutely the same show. We're just going a little long this time.
And I got mad about the lyric rice and beans for a quarter. Red beans and rice for a quarter. I got mad about that line because I would like to buy that for a quarter and I can't because of inflation. Thanks, Brandon.
That's probably like that in New Orleans, maybe?
No, I don't know. I think it's a sweet song. I don't think it's terrible. I like it. I like the idea of a guy who's fallen in love with a New Orleans prostitute. And it's like saying, if you see Louise, tell her I love her. And if she needs a place to stay, I'm always available. There's a sad loser romanticism that I like about it.
Yeah, this is like a loser song. And also, it's like the cover of Can't Buy a Thrill has like the sex workers on it as well.
Yeah, which is like kind
It's
of a
just
play, like sort of cheekily referencing the title. It's like, well, you can buy some thrills, right?
Yeah, and like I feel like this song is like tangentially related to that. It feels very like you can tell that these songs are written in mostly the same headspace.
Yeah, for sure. They like drugs and women. That's what they like writing
Drugs,
about.
women, and kind of being pieces of shit.
And then you look at them and they're such nerdy looking guys where it's like, have you guys had any of these experiences?
Yeah,
But,
Steely Dan is the official like you've seen that episode of I Think You Should Leave. They're pieces of shit with the sloppy steaks.
they look like they'd have sloppy steaks. I think a little. You know what? Holy shit. Jeff Skunk Baxter absolutely is a piece of shit who would have a sloppy steak.
Absolutely. They wouldn't let him have a sloppy steak, but he would get waters and a steak.
He would do it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And then he would like threaten to drone bomb everybody who like told him not to.
I know the secrets of the Sidewinder. Don't fuck with me.
But yeah, this song is very like there's like a definitely like an obvious New Orleans energy to it, and
they keep doing that where it's very. They keep evoking a specific place.
Yeah,
like when there's like a New York kind of song, you know it because it sounds a little bit New York.
It sounds like they're walking there,
but it doesn't sound. Because you know how sometimes songs can do that where it's just like, it's a little bit heavy-handed?
Yeah.
Steely Dan doesn't do it like that. Like, they set a place really well, but they don't, like, they're not corny about it.
They're not super, like, overt with it. And it's, you know what? The song is a proto Fell in Love with a Stripper. Sorry.
This is a soft this is the soft 70s Fell in Love with a Stripper, because that's what this guy does.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can.
That's fine.
This guy's a loser because
he's not.
Because this guy's a loser because like I don't think she's interested, boy. Buddy. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think he's a piece of shit because he fell in love with a sex worker. I just think he's a piece of shit because he's weird.
He's just kind of like obsessing over this woman that he met in New Orleans. Yeah. I don't get the sense that he even is from there, right?
Yeah, I think he's just visiting. Like
if you hear from My Louise, tell her I said hello. I don't think he's there. Otherwise, he'd be like being weird about it at her.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I get the sense that he's just kind of a loser from afar.
Yeah. So, King of the World.
Oh, a song in which the Earth is a loser.
King of the World feels very much like now.
Yep.
Is that weird?
No, that's not weird because this song is about post-nuclear apocalypse.
This feels like some Mad Max shit.
In a 1974 performance, Walter Dan Becker states, "This next song scares me half to death. It's a tale of terror and loathing in the far-flung future." That's hard to say.
And that might as well be now.
Yeah, the first verse is like, "Can anyone hear me on this ham radio?" "No marigolds in the promised land. There's a hole in the ground where they used to grow. Any man left on the Rio Grande is king of the world as far as I know," is the chorus, which is just so good. It's very bleak and a really fun way, really fun, sad way to end this album.
Yeah, it's like really like it's a devastating look at what could happen if things don't
change quickly, please.
Don't change. They didn't change.
Oh, no.
And it's very much like, it's like, there's that line that's like, I don't need no helping hand. I can't be no savage. I can't be no highwayman. I get like big Mad Max energy from that.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like a pit in my stomach when he says that of like, I can't do this. I can't be Mad Max. I wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah.
I couldn't do this life, right? Like, show me where you are. You and I will spend this day driving in my car through the ruins of Santa Fe. Like, fuck all the highwayman shit. Let's just, like, take a drive and, like, try and forget that this is happening.
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
Yeah, right? Like, he's like, I don't want to be Mad Max. I like the cars, but I don't want to be Mad Max. Oh, man. I think it's incredible. This is my favorite. Fucks.
Yeah, this is my favorite Steely Dan song so far.
Oh, so all together?
Yeah, all together.
Even like, any from Asia?
I'm not counting Asia just
okay.
yet.
Okay, all right, I was going to say. Whoa, that's big.
Yeah, out of these two, this is my favorite one. I'm not going to count Asia yet because we haven't touched Asia yet. We've said Asia so many times.
Yeah. I think it's incredible that this song, like, this album is bookended by such radically different vibed songs.
Yes.
But it's so fun and dancey. You're at the soda pop joint, having a malt shake with your girl, and then King of the World is like, everything's fucking dead. Everything's fucking dead, and yet the whole album feels like one thing.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe on purpose.
That's incredible. Oh, it's gotta be. And it's ironic because it's called Countdown to Ecstasy, but it kind of goes in the reverse. Hey. So what do we? Do I have anything else to say about this album?
I don't think I do, because I feel like I've been like just heaping praise on it the whole fucking time.
It's just
this is incredible.
Good. Walter Dan Becker. I did have one thing else to say about King of the World. He wrote it with Donald right after watching Panic in Year Zero, which is a nuclear Holocaust film. I
believe I've seen Panic in Year Zero.
Yeah.
And that is, I would have also written that.
Yeah. It's like, am I allowed to say the baguette story? It's kind of like when you got very high and very anxious, so you just had to draw a baguette.
Yeah. I got on 420 a couple years ago, I got really high by accident. And I got really stressed out. So in order to de-stress myself, I drew a baguette very shakily. And I got really weirded out that everybody was going to make fun of me for drawing a bad baguette.
That was like part of the anxiety. It was like, oh no, everyone's going to judge my baguette.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I've been smoking weed throughout the recording of this podcast. And I could draw you a shit baguette and show you. And if you laughed, I'd be like, yeah, it's great, isn't it?
You could probably draw an incredible baguette.
I feel bad for people who get very anxious on weed because it sucks.
I think maybe I just took too much.
Yeah.
But
But Steely Dan never takes too much. They take just the right amount, baby.
Just the right amount of that West Coast smoke.
One thing I want to say about the Countdown to the Ecstasy. So they got a bunch of session musicians in, more than the first one. So they're starting to like, hey, we can just hire like as many people as we want. There's no rules.
Yeah.
And you know who does slide guitar on Showbiz Kids?
Who?
Rick Derringer.
Really?
The longtime guitarist and producer for Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah.
That's
Holy
him,
shit.
baby. Yeah. He worked extensively with Steely Dan. Not extensively. As extensively as you could as like a guy that they would hire for one guitar part every album, right?
Yeah.
But no, I think he has some work on a few of their albums. That was a fun little connection.
Wild, because he worked a lot with Weird Al.
He does to this day. I think like from the beginning till now. Yeah, like Rick Derringer is all over Weird Al. I mean, he's a producer and guitarist, so he's
like Weird Al's like Bernie Taupin.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was a fun connection.
Where Weird Al is Elton John, yeah.
Wow, he is Elton John, isn't he?
Wow, he's like the Elton John of our time.
He really, truly is.
Anyway, are we picking up something good?
I'm picking up something fucking great.
I'm picking up something incredible so far.
I am so glad we're doing Steely Danceember.
I'm so glad that we are here.
I don't even care if people listen. I'm sure people like they're gonna see this pop up in their podcatcher feed and be like, "Who the fuck are these guys?" Delete. I don't even care about that.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. This is for us.
This is just for me and my good friend Mace. But also, if you're listening, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening.
That's cool of you. I hope you enjoyed it. See, yeah. I can feel both.
I mean, if you'd like to come on and talk about Steely Dan, if you like Steely Dan.
Yeah, if you're like, short notice because we're recording these at a pretty quick pace. We're doing this like weekly, by the way, because it's
we're back to the
Danceember.
old we're back to the old ways
We're back.
where we were recording and then releasing it like the day or two afterwards. But if you're listening to this and you'd like to talk about Steely Dan,
We could probably
get
have you
in
on for
touch.
Pretzel Logic.
Yeah, we'll probably have you on for Pretzel Logic.
Something like that.
We can, just reach out to us. You know where to find us, right?
You know where to find us. I'm Nikki Flowers. I play music as Nikki Flowers, and you can find me at cohost.org/Nikki, N-I-C-K-Y, or twitter.com/yiffpolice. And check out my Bandcamp, NikkiFlowers.bandcamp.com. I just released a Game Boy game. It's called You Are a Skeleton, and that is a problem. You can check that out by going to nikkiflowers.itch.io, something like that. And I think that's all I have to plug.
I will be playing that game right after this. I loaded it on my Steam Deck. I just haven't had time.
Yes, I love the fact that it's being played on a Steam Deck.
Just like several times more processing power than it needs. My name is Mace. I play music as Echo Vessel. You can find me on Twitter at Echo Vessel. You can find me on co-host at Mace, just MEYS.
Yeah, we got our first names because we were early.
Yeah, Nikki invited me very early on.
Yeah.
To the website with the bad terms of service where you should not
Where you
use
could be, yeah, it's actually evil to use co-host, and they steal your liver if you use it, and Eggbug is evil.
I love Eggbug. Or you can, find me on Instagram at Echo Vessel with 3 O's. If you live in Los Angeles, just scream into the void and I'll hear you.
And he'll come a-running.
I'll come a-running. Nikki and I and our good friend Vic Benson run a label called Neodetritus. And
this is true.
We have, a couple of weeks ago, I did a stress test of our new radio station, Neodetritus Radio. And, we're in conversation to get it going, full time.
It's going to be a thing.
It's going to be a thing.
It's going to be very exciting.
A lot of things happened between that first stress test and now, and hopefully, we'll be able to talk about it real soon.
Yeah. But
keep an eye out for that, for some cool shows, for some cool new music as well. I'm working on something. Nikki's working on something. I'm in a band that I can't tell you about. I'd like to show you rather than tell you.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. But yeah, that's us. Thank you so much for listening to, our kind of the first episode. It's kind of sprawling, but
well, we needed to, there's so much to get into. We had to talk about Jeff Skunk Were we not going to talk about Jeff Skunk Baxter?
We weren't not going to talk about Skunk, and we weren't not going to talk about how Steely Dan formed. Hopefully, now that you have the Cliff's Notes, we can get going a little faster next time.
We'll still clue you in on some fun trivia, but we don't have to get into the whole thing. It's a meaty episode. We have a meaty audience, and their hearts are full of meat.
Their hearts are full of meat.
Oh, man. I'm not good at ending podcasts.
Anyway, thank you so much. So, bye-bye.
Bye. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye.